I'm Jason Klom, and this is Comedy on Vinyl. Not insane or anything you want to. The album, nope, that's what I just said. The artist, the Firesign Theater. My guests this week, Phil Proctor and Taylor Jessen, have returned. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yo.
Nice to be back. Nice to be anywhere. As they say,
enough.
somebody my age, right?
So this album is an interesting mix of live and studio recording stuff. I couldn't make sense of what Wikipedia wanted to tell me about why it is mixed this way and why it led to some possible acrimony. Why don't you tell me a bit, Phil, about how this came about, where you were at, where Firesign was at this point?
It's a mixed up album, and it was a very mixed up time for the partnership. Phil Austin had just gotten a divorce from his wonderful wife, Anna Lee, who had gone off to perform naked in the show Calcutta, which in French is "What an ass you have," Calcutta. And Peter Bergman, I think, had an affair with her up in his land in Mendocino, and Phil and I had to meet the obligation of one more album under a Columbia contract. And so under these circumstances, we did the best we could to put out something that, would satisfy our contract and represent what Firesign was up to at the moment. Up to no good, of course, as usual. And so, in a sense, I always say Not Insane was absolutely our most insane album. Okay? And I can't even remember. Well, I don't remember anything anyway, but I can't remember exactly what we decided, Phil and I, would be the narrative that held the album together. And I think that we decided it didn't matter. Let's just put it all together and see what happens, like a witch's brew, But I do remember it was always fun working with the late, great Phil Austin. And, and so we had a very good time putting the album together such as it was. And we did have a live recording of Anything You Want To, which at that point was called, I don't know what, the Count of Monte Cristo.
Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, that piece had gone through so many transmogrifications in performance that when it finally became an album of its own, after it was a broadcast on, I think, National Public Radio, called Anything You Want To, Shakespeare's Lost Comedy.
Yeah.
That the process of getting to that point, you can hear on the Not Insane album, because you hear an earlier iteration of that piece, which we did so many times, so many places, in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So that's all I can remember. Goodbye.
That was great. Well, let me fill you in on the rest. So first the earth cooled, then Firesign Theater formed, and after
then there was this turtle.
There was this turtle,
Yep.
and then there was an incest joke,
And he was walking.
He was walking.
He was the biggest catfish you ever saw.
So, one of the major building blocks of the album is this live show, The Martian Space Party, which was the apotheosis of Firesign's third and last radio show of the early 70s, the Let's Eat series.
Okay.
Excuse me, I just have to tell you, your eyes are completely obliterated. Can you put your face in there? No, still, I see nothing but that beard. And
This is the French way of doing music videos, no tops of the head. So we'll continue. No. Okay.
That's better.
We can see my whole face now.
No, it looks like an episode from The Masked Singer. Okay. All right. Good. I can see you now. All right. So,
very good.
Yeah, carry on, because you are stimulating my memory cells.
So they did this. They did their show Let's Eat on KPFK between November of 71 and February of 72, and the momentum was to do something. and they had a really good archive of bits from Let's Eat that were really funny. And so they put together a script for this 90-minute live performance, which they performed at, it was Strange Hall, right, Phil?
I didn't find performance on Apple Music.
Well, see, she can't help me now.
Well, screw Apple.
I thought Siri could help me, but fuck you, Siri. Right. Here's what I remember. I remember that the Martian Space Party was done as a documentary-style fundraiser for KPFK's new building, and we did it in the unfinished new building. Okay. Now, if we had performed it in another iteration at Strange Hall, I can't imagine a better place for it to have, first come to life. So, but I don't remember that hall at Hall. Okay. We did so many performances all over Southern California at that time, and not to mention all of the performances of the new shows we did at the Ash Grove, but I'm not supposed to mention that. So again, it's all a horrible blur. And now I'm getting seasick because you're walking around on the ship. And I'm gonna throw up. Oh, luckily I just got my new Jewish laser satellite pin. Okay. So I'm now officially a part of the conspiracy.
You're officially a part of the Jewish laser demolition mission.
Yes, I am.
I love it.
I am.
Fantastic. I've been on the waiting list for years.
Oh, well, I'm not going to say anything because if I do, I'll have to kill you.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Well, what's amazing to me about this performance that they did for Martian Space Party is that there was so much love and expectation of there being this amazing product from Firesign that Firesign convinced Columbia to record the whole thing in 8-track from a truck outside.
That's right.
It was very much intended to be not just a documentary film, but the next album. And it's full of hilarious bits. Maybe they don't all make cohere into a narrative, but the bits that are in it are amazing. I mean, if you buy Duke of Madness Motors, you can hear the unedited original show and all of the performances in it. Some of the sketches just kill. I mean, the Bird of Prey Motors,
Bird of Prey Garage, yes.
Song.
Bill Austin's Bird of Prey. Caw. Yes.
I will stand upon my head
until this bird
is dead. At the Bird of Prey,
Garage.
Get a lube job at Edgar Allan Poe.
That's right. Yeah, there is some great stuff. And by the way, it was, I said it was a documentary because it was captured on film by our dear friend Steve Gilmore, and was released in major motion picture theaters, I think, along with Everything You Know Is Wrong, which is also made into a film.
Yeah, later it did tour with Everything You Know Is Wrong. In 1972, it toured with Reefer Madness. It was
That's right. That's right.
Film.
Yeah, I have a poster in my bathroom, which is always a good place to put a poster about Reefer Madness. But
And the audience loved it. Everybody was having everybody just died for that show. It was so great. Now, if I can channel David Osmond for a moment, I know what he would want me to mention, which is that he, as far as he was concerned, the through line for this thing was that there was a robot called Walter.
Yeah, Walter, that's right.
Walter was a robot that was an all-seeing eye, maybe a satellite. And this was going to be the thread. This was the thread that I think he saw in the album, was that Walter was watching and listening to everything. You can kind of hear that in the first couple of minutes of the show because it's making lots of weird ethereal noises.
Yeah.
So it does kind of have, you could force that through line on it, but you're not the only one to have been confused by listening to it for the first time.
Sure.
Yeah, and again, I do not remember. Walter was also an homage to Walter Concrete. All right,
That's right.
The great the greatest newsman of our time.
Of course.
And I don't remember writing anything for this, and I don't remember David's participation at all. I'm telling you, it's the Firesign Theater. One of the things that was so much fun about it was that during the 50 plus years that we all collaborated together, we were kind of egoless, and as a result, everybody would put their best efforts into the creation of whatever it was we were working on. Mm-hmm. And then we'd go on to something else, and the opportunity to put these things out like unidentified flying objects, flying saucers into the ether and see if anybody spotted them, was a remarkably real kind of success for us. Our success was absolutely fan-based. Yeah. And that's what fanned our flame of the Firesign Theater. So again, we were rewarded, as Taylor says, by the enthusiastic participation of our audiences. Yeah, and that's one thing that you definitely can get from some of the live segments of the album.
Yeah, and this was obviously a big disappointment for the record company and maybe for the fans, but this was in no way the end of Firesign's popularity. 2 years after this album came out, they sold out Carnegie Hall. They kept making good material. I mean, for the year after this album came out, they made material as separate, groups and pairs and individuals. Yeah. But then they came back together and made 2 amazing albums, and they toured and sold out everywhere they went. So this wasn't even the peak of their popularity. This was their popularity was still rising at this point.
Yeah, I think it was a pause in our popularity.
You guys needed a break. You really, you had been like living together and working together for at least 4 years solid, I'm sure.
Yep. Sleeping with one another's wives.
Sure.
Right?
Always such a great idea.
Yeah. And was the suicide, Bergman's girlfriend's suicide during this period?
Oh my God.
I think that was in like spring of 71, right before you did Bozos.
Wow.
So that must have been super unpleasant.
Yeah, it was what it was. We were writing at Phil Austin's place. Yeah, that's right. He wasn't divorced yet, but his Anna Lee was unhappy, and I remember she'd be in the kitchen cooking like a witch. I mean, she'd be cooking something that was, like lizard based or something, and we just knew that there was a tension going on there that was finally resolved, when she got on her broom and flew away. But the fact is that at that time, Bergman was living in a Japanese-style paper house up the hill on Echo Park, was it? Echo Park? Los Feliz, the Los Feliz area, right? And we all used to convene at Austin's for our writing sessions, which were really some of the most creative sessions we had. That was when Phil and I focused our attention on building the little miniature houses that was used in the documentary.
Everybody, if you buy the DVD, you can see a great stills gallery of the guys putting together the miniature village for the film Martian
for Godzilla to destroy. Yes. That's right. And pardon me. And during that time, Bergman reconnected with an old girlfriend of his who had just come back from Vietnam, where she was a journalist. And it so deeply affected her psyche that she overdosed herself on pills.
Oh, wow.
And died in Bergman's arms in the little paper house. I mean, come on, what a history. What a story. In my book, Where's My Fortune Cookie, I only touch briefly, really, on the trauma of Firesign Theater, because that's not really what the book is about. And we had just lost Peter So I wanted to make an homage to him. But in talking to you, Jason, over the years about these things, I think it's only fair to discuss, to pull the curtain back from some of the things that we went through, because as everybody has always said, a rock and roll band could break up, or they could always hire another drummer. But we didn't have that luxury. It was the four of us, the four musketeers, and the fifth crazy guy, who demanded that we keep working. And so everything that happened to us personally during that time was part of was put into the work, thrown into the cauldron.
Yeah.
I got married around that time to my first wife, Sheila Wells, and I was living, I think around that time, 71, right? You say, is that when we
72?
Yeah, this came out in 72, so, but I would imagine 71.
I think I was with Sheila then. And that was fascinating because it opened a whole different kind of Hollywood to me. My first wife, knew everybody in Hollywood, everybody, and from Johnny Carson on down. And we used to go to parties every weekend or so at Jeannie Martin's house, Dean Martin's divorcee. How you put it? Dean Martin's ex-wife.
I was going to say widow, and that's the wrong
No,
word.
no, his ex-wife. It was his ex-wife, and we met everybody there. David Bowie and Elizabeth Taylor, and I spoke Russian with Natalie Wood,
Holy
and
shit.
all of the comedians, Jack Carson and Rickles, and you name them, they were all there. And it was at a time when it was kind of the end of the Hollywood social life, because you all hear about the fact that there used to be these wild parties, sometimes bacchanalian parties, where people would make connections, professional connections, and get into movies and write movies and direct movies and produce movies based on a wild weekend at Errol Flynn's,
Sure.
And that was kind of what was still going on at that time, but on a much more genteel level, a much more social and friendly level, because it was, after all, the era of pot, the era of communes, and the era of people's ways. No, of people kind of getting together in a friendly manner. All of which, of course, ended when the Manson murders happened.
Okay.
Okay? That was the end of that era, because suddenly it became dangerous to open your house to so many. And kill your baby.
Sheila was literally 1 degree of separation from that, wasn't she?
Oof, magoof. Wow.
Well, the story about Sheila and Sharon Tate is rather eerie and sad. I presently live, and I'm talking to you now from my guest dungeon, about 5 minutes away from where the murders happened. And it is rumored, that the murderers washed the blood off their clothes and their knives on this street, Wanda Park Drive, 3 houses up from where I am right now, at an open spigot that was there. So it is said. But that night, Sheila had invited Sharon, whom she had met when they were both contract players at Universal, and shared a house on Clark Drive in Beverly Hills, a throne's stone from where I used to work out. I mean, all of these connections are endless and fascinating, and the web of life. It's just amazing. But that night, Sheila had invited Sharon to come and have dinner at her little house on Phyllis Avenue. And Sharon called up and said, it was a hot day. The baby's been acting up, kicking me. I just learned that Jay Sebring is in town, is going to come over. So we've decided we're just going to go out for dinner. And why don't you join us afterwards?
Holy shit.
And Sheila said, no, I can't. I have our other mutual friend coming over for dinner. So, I'll call you. And when she called, the line was busy.
Mm-hmm.
And as was Sheila's wont, because she was a very aggressive girl, she called the operator and said, "What's going on?" The operator said, "Well, the line is out of order." And so Sheila called Sharon's dad, Colonel Tate. And by then they'd already known. The police were there and they knew what had happened.
Wow.
So, as I often say, if Sheila had only gone with them, it would have saved me a nasty divorce. But such is life, and such is death.
And
where's
such
my
is
fortune cookie?
and such is that joke. Thank you.
Thank you.
For that.
Try the sacrificial lamb.
I've never felt guiltier for laughing at a joke.
Jesus Christ, the anecdote you just delivered, Phil Proctor. Well, on the Jesus Christ, we can't believe you just delivered that anecdote show.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to the summer of 72. I guess after Not Insane, I know a little bit about what Peter did. He went and made that amazing short film, Love is Hard to Get, with Anton Green.
Yeah.
Phil, what did you do?
I was in that movie, Love is Hard to Get. I had a scene with, a wonderful actor, improvisational actor. I still know, and I, of course, can't remember his name now. It may come to me later. Marlon Brando. No, it wasn't Marlon Brando. but we shot a scene where I was the maitre d' at an upscale restaurant, and we shot it at our friend's new restaurant called Ports, which was a sports bar before that, and the new owner just took the S off of sports and made it into an exotic restaurant.
Oh my God.
Now, again, I cannot remember this wonderful man's name. He looked a little like Taylor, and he was the chef, except he had, a chef's thing on his head. And he created a wonderful restaurant. I used to love to go in there and have his marrow bones. Mm-hmm. Split marrow bones with, it was so good. His name is also dancing around my head. But anyway, that's where we shot that particular movie. I think.
Well, Phil, I think you might be remembering Six Dreams.
That's what I'm remembering.
That was a later film by Anton Green, which is also excellent. Which we hope we will get out on home video at some point. But that's just another sweet little avant-garde piece from Anton Green, who was originally a friend of Peter's from The Farm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so Love is Hard to Get. He did the gorilla in that, didn't he? He sang a rock and roll song is in a gorilla outfit.
Yeah, Nazi Goreng.
Nazi Goreng, which is the name of a Thai dish.
Yeah, it's noodles. It's Thai noodles.
Thai noodles, Yes, that's right. Love is Hard to Get. And it really, for Bergman, it really was. But that's another story, See, it's all a muddle in my poor little head.
Appropriately, I mean, this is the most muddled album. It is so, there's so much here. But here's the thing, though. Regardless of how insane it was and how difficult it was to track, I'm always impressed at the not just the comedy language, but the actual language you're writing in. Because writing anything in iambic pentameter or trying to sound like Shakespeare is something I could not do. And I'm wondering how naturally this kind of stuff came to you guys.
Well, pretty naturally. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Phil and David and I were all actors and had at one point or another done Shakespeare. Well, actually, the first Shakespeare I ever did was at Riverdale Country School when I was, how old would I have been then? 15 or 16 or something like that. We did an outdoor theater presentation of The Taming of the Shrew. Mm-hmm. And I played the servant whose name I can't remember now. Grumio. Grumio. Right. And I remember one of my lines, I'm a little pot and soon hot. Little did I know I'd be smoking a little pot. And
Excellent.
now you're getting warm, But anyway, so Shakespeare was kind of always second nature to me. But one of the things that the Firesign Theater could do was that we all had tape recorders in our heads, and we could play things back. And so when it came to starting to play with the Shakespearean milieu, we all had stuff in our head, whether it's we had seen, the Laurence Olivier's Hamlet, right? Or a production of Richard III in school or something. The rhythms were there. I know one of the other inspirations for me was Beyond the Fringe. Okay?
Yeah.
An early album by, among others, Peter Cook and Dudley Moore.
Yeah.
Wonderful, crazy English people. And they did a Shakespearean parody.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I am the fool. I talk so fast I know what I mean. Oh, saucy Worcester, dost thou lie so low? So of course I was inspired by that.
I shall now most royally to bed to sleep off all the nonsense I just said.
Right. Yeah. So it was my turn, to do a turn on that. And again, Firesign Theater embodied the there's a word of refactoring, no, reinventing, no, reworking, kind of. There's a word for plagiarism. That's it. We plagiarized everything that we possibly could, and we reinvented it for our own purposes. So all of the social things that were happening were kind of happening to us. We were participating in the anti-Vietnamese war demonstrations, and we, as satirists, were dealing with some pretty heavy social issues at the time. And so when we got to something like a Shakespearean parody, like everything else that we did, we were able to throw in the issues of the day, repurposing the issues of the day. And by the way, in I think it's SeaWorld, they just added some new dolphins. They're repurposing their particular show.
You're going to hell, Phil. But continue.
For that, not for the one from earlier.
I thought that was a whale of a pun. But okay, anyway. So the story that we added to anything you want to, the conceit being, of course, that Shakespeare had written this play when he was in America. Okay, that people forgot that Shakespeare, took a trip on a ship to America, where he met Indians, Native Americans, and wrote a piece based on his experiences there. So we were dealing with the Native American story and the English story. I remember on the ship over in our play, they're in a great storm, and they have to throw some barrels over the side. And one of the characters says, no, my servants are in those barrels. Which again was a comment on an upper class, lower class thing. But beyond that, when we did was it an NPR show, PBS show, whatever it was? Do you remember?
Yeah, the NPR version in like 1980
with live music by a group of musicians who did music on recreated old instruments.
Wow.
From medieval times.
I love it. Okay.
And wrote original material, and some of it was authentic music of the times. The wraparound story that we decided to make had to do with the tension between communism and capitalism. And so I played an Australian director named Derek something. And and I talked about the fact that we recorded this show in Flem and Hochflem in Belgium, okay, at one of the PBS stations, and we were staying in a hotel which was on the dividing line between the east and the west of Hochflem, so that one side of the hotel was a capitalist paradise. It was the caviar and champagne and girls in high heels and low-cut dresses and, dancing and just a decadent, wonderful time. But if you stepped across the line into the other part of the hotel, it was dingy and unkempt, and there were, slovenly servants throwing up on the dining tables, and and it was a completely different experience. Mm-hmm. This came from my experience in the Soviet Union with the Yale Russian Chorus in '59, where I was in Berlin when there was no wall, but there was West Berlin and East Berlin.
Yeah.
And West Berlin was a bustling, wonderful, commercial community, artistic community. And if you took the train, elevated train across into East Berlin, you found bombed out buildings from the Second World War, a feeling of complete despair, people dressed in drab clothes, very few automobiles, and they were usually gray Soviet cars called Seagull, Chaika. Uh-huh. And they had certain apartment complexes called Stalin Allee, which was a Stalin style of architecture from that era, and they shot.
So basically, it had room in the walls for you to be buried with your family.
Yeah. Well, first of all, many generations had to live in one apartment. That was the Soviet style.
Ooh, boy. Fun.
And yet we also got to go to the Berliner Ensemble, where Brecht cut his baby teeth.
Wow.
And watch, a fantastic production auf Deutsch, but that was what we were commenting on. And again, we rolled some of that into our Shakespearean story, because again, it was a story of a typical Shakespearean story of upsmanship. Who's going to be king, right? Who's going to take the reins of control of the kingdom? And that's an American story, okay, sure, as well. So we use the metaphor of Shakespeare to tell that kind of a story. I think we also rolled in some radioactivity, didn't we? Peter Bergman's character was kind of a wizard, and we made radioactive references. Do you remember that?
Oh God, I can't remember. If I had prepared the Anything You Want to reissue that we should make for Bandcamp, I would know, because I would have listened to all of those interstitial bits, but I haven't listened to those in a while.
And it's published. We put out a book which you can get at Bear Manor Press, called Anything You Want to, Shakespeare's Lost Comedy.
That is the most batshit wonderful, extreme practical joke Shakespeare book ever. Ladies and gentlemen, every Shakespearean actor needs a copy of that book.
And not just because of the scenes and how funny the scenes are and how wonderful everything is, but because when we decided to put out the book, we decided to make a parody of Shakespearean play folios.
Love it. Which,
as if you remember, if you ever read any of them in school, are heavily annotated.
Sure.
By scholars. The word padunk, was created by Shakespeare to be the sound of a duck hitting a wall, in 1356, and became popular in French songs of the Auvergne in the following century, things like that. So we wrote an entire history of ye old Firesign theater.
Yeah.
Positing once again, as we did through our entire career, that the group, the Firesign Theater, these four guys, is eternal. and has been around in different incarnations throughout history.
Mhm.
Okay, so the footnotes in the book are the book. There'll be a couple of lines of dialogue and then 150 lines of small type, right? Which will take you on another whole
beautiful.
adventure.
It's too
Oh
good.
my God.
I was telling Jason in the pre-show that this really was the apotheosis of the Firesign's own world building around itself. How Firesign had in the years of generating this gigantic mythology determined that they were only the most recent purchasers of the Firesign mantle. They bought the franchise from whoever was not using it last, and it goes back 400 years.
Yeah. What I was telling Taylor is that not knowing that, because I've been following Firesign basically as we cover them on the podcast, unless somebody else picks one of your albums to discuss, which happens. I've been accidentally stealing this exact gag for some time now, and it makes me so happy though that at the very least it's parallel thinking, because like there's even a bit on this record where is it Peter who's playing Gary Firesign? Is that he who's playing Gary Firesign? Okay.
The Seeker. You're talking about Everything You Know Is Wrong?
Yeah.
The Seeker.
Right, but also
in the Not Insane album, there's this giant mega ad where Gary Firesign of Hollywood is trying to sell cars. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have since played Herschel F. Comedy Hour for Dan and Jay's Comedy Hour for one of my albums, which you very kindly did for me. So I just keep accidentally stealing from you without knowing that I've been doing it, and it's I don't know. The fake history stuff is maybe my favorite comedy of all time, and I just love that this is.
Okay. I have a stealing
rich.
story. I have a stealing story for you.
Please.
This is tangentially related because I'm speaking to you on an Apple computer right now.
Sure.
Okay? And when I was writing with the boys, David Osman was our typist, just like Woody Allen was the typist for your show of shows with Doc Simon and Carl Reiner and Sid Caesar and all the rest. David was he could type sightlessly and touch type, okay, and so he was our typist, and we would type copies with carbon paper. Now I'm sure that there are some people out there who have no fucking idea what I'm talking about.
Right.
But in the old days, children, you had a thing called paper, which was invented by the Chinese. And you had sheets of paper, and you would put them into a roller device with a little machine that had keys that would strike the letters on the paper. And if you put this carbon paper behind it, which is a thin sheet of dirty stuff that you could get on your fingers, it would make the impression of that keystroke on another piece of paper.
It was invented by Marconi, of course.
Did Marconi, after he invented
you guys said it did, so that's the fact.
Anyway, so that's the way we basically wrote, and most of us wrote in longhand when we brought our stuff in. And I have back here in my office files filled with my own handwritten material but because I have macular degeneration is getting harder and harder and harder for me to go through and see. But every time I do, I see, first of all, I don't know how I could read my writing. It's somewhat illegible, but also all of the drawings and the little sketches and the little things, it's charming and it takes me back. But I digress because of something I ate. And what I'm trying to say is that when the only reason I moved on to computer was because Harry Anderson, the late, great magic comic person, had stolen some material from me when Proctor and Bergman were touring, and I created this character named Dr. Astro. And I'll tell you the bit that he stole in a minute. And he was guilty about it. So when he was doing all of the early ads for the Mac computers, after every session, studio session, he would grab up all the machines, put them in his trunk of his car,
Holy shit.
and give them to his friends.
Yes.
So he was Harry the Hat from Cheers. He would actually
Oh,
steal things.
Harry was totally authentic. That's why he had such a wonderful career.
Oh my
But-
God.
But he gave me my first computer.
Wow.
Then later, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but Harry did a series of commercials for fax machines.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he admitted he stole some other material from me. And he gave me a fax machine.
Fantastic. Perks, Hollywood
so-
perks, man. Take them when you get
Perks, right. I'm so sorry he's not with us anymore because I'm sure he'll remember something else he stole from me.
Right.
The bit that he stole from Dr. Astro, Peter and I would do this out in cabarets, and Dr. Astro would give phony readings to people. You know, you're a Sagittarius or you're a Leon or you're whatever. And we made up all kinds of terrible, predictions about what was in store for them and what a terrible sign they were, and at one point I would, because I was playing like a Johnny Carson character with the turban and the feather and all that, I would suddenly be interrupted in the act by, I am getting vibrations, I'm getting strong vibrations from someone in the audience, and I would stagger out into the audience. Strong vibration, good vibrations, and I would stop in front of the prettiest girl that we could find, and which is usually a guy in drag, but that's because Firesign fans were. No, I won't get. So I won't get into that, and I didn't get into that. However, I'd stop in front of a pretty girl, and I would reach into her purse and pull out a dildo, a vibrator. He said, "Your vibrator is on." Harry loved that so much he stole it.
Stole it.
And of course, the vibrator that we used in the act, I got by mail order, and it showed up. It was delivered to my next door neighbor, who was a widow lady, who had to bring it over to me and say, "Is this yours?" I said, "I guess so." I mean, I don't remember ordering it, but thank you.
Didn't it go off in front of a customs agent at some point?
Well, that's yes, but that's another horrible.
Please tell me that the Library of Congress has your vibrator.
Oh, that's one of the things we are disappointed about, because we try to give them all our costumes, and props and things, but no, they're more interested in the digital material, right?
Fair enough.
But
yeah, and I mean, technically, a dildo is digital in some form, but they still didn't want any of the electronics that we sent them. They're threatening to send them back. They haven't sent them back yet.
Oh, good.
Funny.
Oh, good. Well, that's because of the COVID.
Right.
Right. But the story that you're telling about the vibrator going off is probably true. But the one I remember the most, because it was the most traumatic, was that Peter and I had gone to visit his parents, Rita and what was his name? Oscar and Rita. Oscar had a great voice like that. Oscar and Rita. And by the way, I don't know if people know that Peter Bergman cut his radio teeth with his parents because they used to do a show called Breakfast with the Bergmans.
Indeed.
Oh my God.
In their house, down at their breakfast table.
Holy shit.
And Peter would, he'd say, "Pass me the toast and the jam and the microphone." Wow.
Jason, I'll send you a photo from a newspaper article. There was a picture of Oscar and Rita in front of their microphones.
Wow. My dear friend Jimmy Alcroft and partner in Boomers on a Bench, who recently had 2 years ago now a liver and heart transplant.
Oh yeah.
And he was in the hospital for 180 days before he got it. And his best line is, which is in his book, Diary of a Tin Man, is, "Anybody who says laughter is the best medicine has never had a morphine drip." Right. So true,
Right.
Yep.
So
Indeed.
the other time there was a vibrational mystery was when Firesign played Washington, D.C. And Peter and I, let's see, let me just think of the timing on all this. We had perhaps, let me think. All I know is that there were aliens involved in the act, okay? Because Peter and I portrayed aliens in our act, and we were interviewed for Time Magazine, not Time Magazine, The New Yorker, the talk of the town, as our characters, And that was right before I met Uri Geller and all of the incredible flying saucer stuff that I went through. It's in my book, Where's My Fortune Cookie? I can't tell you about it now because I have to kill you. But anyway, so Peter and I, after the show, we're staying at the Three Georges, which is a really nice hotel in Georgetown.
Okay.
And we get out of the elevator, and with our prop suitcases, which are now Firesign filled, and I go to my room, and Peter calls me. Yeah, Ted, I know you call. Peter calls me from his room, and he says, Phil, I know that this is going to be very strange, but I have to tell you something that just happened to me. So I said, okay, I'll come down. So I come down to the room, and Peter says, as I was walking down the hall to my room with my suitcase, it suddenly started vibrating. And there was a tone in it that went kind of like, ooh. And he said, I know this may sound stupid, but I just left it in the hallway and ran into my room and closed the door and waited till I heard it go, ooh. Then I went out, I kicked it over, I unzipped it, I looked through it, and I could find nothing that could have created this effect.
What the hell?
Well, I had a similar thing happen when we were performing as Proctor and Bergman in New York, and we stayed at a famous women's hotel, which is now open to everybody, called, I don't know, the Vagina. I don't remember. The Regal Vagina.
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Big fan.
And I had a very nice room, and we performed our show and went back to lie down before going out to dinner or something. I couldn't get in my room. My key didn't work, and the door wouldn't open. So we called the Hotel Dick, whose name was Richard, by the way. and he came up, tried it, didn't work. He had a pass key, tried the pass key, didn't work. So he took out a special key and he put it in, and it worked. And he opened the door. And at this time, lights were going on and off all around me, which was, I was told by my psychic friend who predicted the Chinese Gangland Massacre, Sharon, was a sign that the aliens liked what we were doing.
All right. I'll take it.
So the light is on. The overhead light is on in the room. I turned it on. And I said, well, what's going on here? And the hotel detective said, well, somehow somebody threw the deadbolt in your room. But he said they'd have to be inside the room to throw the deadbolt.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nobody here, is there? I said, no. So there's another unexplained mystery.
So creepy.
Creepy weepy. But again, it was all part of the fact that we were out there. We were out there. We were tempting fate. We were talking about what was going on. We were psychically linked to everybody and everything that was happening in society and feeding off of it and entertaining one another with our observations or our the messaging that we might have been getting from the invisible world.
Mm-hmm.
Which
this might be a thing that is something to go into later. But I mean, when you got Firesign, you got Proctor and Bergman, and you got Austin and Osman. I think Proctor and Bergman. Correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, but you guys were, of the two pairs of guys, were much more interested in getting out there and playing clubs,
Yeah.
and actually meeting lots of weirdos and talking to.
What do you mean? Our fans.
Yeah.
AKA our fans. Yes, that was actually a point of contention with the group. At a certain point, Peter and I really felt that we were out of touch with our fans, and we were limited in our ability to tour because Phil Austin, God bless him, the other Phil, he didn't like to fly. He wouldn't fly. He flew once with us on a private aircraft, I think twice on a private jet, because we were on a private jet, come on,
Right.
like a magic carpet, But he didn't want to fly on a commercial aircraft. And so it limited our ability to get out there and promote our works and meet our fans. And Peter and I felt strongly that we needed to do that, to promote not just ourselves, but the group and the group ethos. And so we created Proctor and Bergman and went on a wild ride with that, which included all kinds of radio syndication and public appearances on TV shows and talk shows. I mean, with all these DJs all over the country, it was, the world of the touring comic, and it was great. And people were ready for it. And we promoted everything Firesign. And since we did some albums, because we knew that if we wanted the support of a record company as Proctor and Bergman, we had to have product out there with our names and faces on it.
Yeah.
So we wrote an album called TV or Not TV, which predicted the computer avalanche revolution, thousands of stations and everything, and uncensored television and all that. And the other boys, David and Phil, they wanted to just stay in Hollywood and do more albums. We had nothing against doing more albums, but
Sure.
if you're going to do an album, you're not going to go on the road.
Yeah.
So we said, we'll go on the road and you guys can do some albums, which they did. David did his wonderful solo album, How Time Flies. Phil did his wonderful solo album, Roller Maidens from Outer Space. And then together, they collaborated on In the Next World You're On Your Own, which Peter and I were able to play roles in to become a part of. And that was kind of when we melded our careers together again. And, we could still sustain occasional Proctor and Bergman things, but we could also concentrate on work with the group. And, which paid off really well in the Rhino albums that we did later.
Assuming we have more shows, that's a really interesting period. It took me a long time to figure out. Was Firesign did these two great albums in 73 and 74, Giant Rat and Everything You Know Is Wrong. But the next album after that, although it had all four voices on it, it was only written by Austin and Osman.
Okay.
And it took me a long time to realize that the reason for that was that Proctor and Bergman had conflicting tour dates.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sure.
wow. Okay.
Look, that's if I regret anything about my career with Firesign Theater, it was that I couldn't be in two places at once when I was possibly somewhere at all. No, when I was not anywhere at all, really. Because, your career is only a career if you're somewhere, if you do something. So, and I could not be in two places at once when I was not anywhere at all. I had to turn down a TV pilot in Tahiti where I would be able to speak French. Okay. I turned down all kinds. I turned down managership by Neil Israel and a guy named Gruskov. What was his first name? I don't know. Tyler. I don't know. Because they wanted to manage my career in movies. Okay. and I said, I can't do it. You know, I'm a member of the Firesign Theater. I owe an allegiance to my partners, and we have a career. And it was just too dangerous for me to think that, you know, I'd have to go off and do a movie for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I regret that, because I probably could have made it happen. So instead, they got Tom Hanks. For God's sake.
Oh, man.
What a terrible decision. But for the movie called Bachelor Party.
Uh-huh.
But anyway,
Oh, my God.
yeah, I mean, those things happen to me a lot,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a talented actor, and I started on Broadway, a musical comedy,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, and I had numerous career paths open to me, and some of them led me to the Firesign Theater, and then the Firesign Theater kind of let me do everything.
Mm-hmm.
I could sing, I could act, I could write, I could produce, I could direct, I could do sound effects, compose music, direct music, choral music, sing music, and that was what I was supposed to do. I mean, that's kind of like, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because the people that attracted me the most when I was growing up comedically, besides people like Beyond the Fringe, were Bob and Ray
Mm-hmm.
and Ernie Kovacs.
Sure.
All right, and both of them were creative and outstanding. I mean, they created their own worlds, right, and
Mm-hmm.
did everything in those worlds. In fact, I just listened to Bob and Ray at Carnegie Hall this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Stumbled across an online recording of it, and they're just as funny as ever. I mean, I can listen to them anytime, anywhere, and they make me fall off my seat. They really just wonderful. So in a way, that was what I felt rewarded by with Firesign Theater. We were doing a modern version, again, like a reimagining of a comic production, a broadcast, if you will, radio oriented, to reach people. And in our case, we created the long form comedy record,
Mm-hmm.
which was like a Stan Freberg
Sure.
show, you know, and yet it gave us the opportunity to develop our own writing style, to develop our own characters. Ollie Ballou here, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and to create a body of work, an opus that was oddly connected as we evolved as writers and players.
Mm-hmm.
That must have been the really just beautiful part of Firesign, is that you could use everything that you had going for you in a piece of art.
Yeah.
I mean,
Every talent that you had, you could show off, and it would be you're part of an ensemble that needed and wanted that input.
Yeah, encouraged it among ourselves. I mean, I could say in a shorthand, Dave Osmond supplied poetry and an incredible radio voice and parodies of announcers to us. That's just a little bit of what
Mm-hmm.
he brought to us, plus his great writing chops. Bergman was hysterically funny and was a play doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he could take a skit and punch it up, you know, till we were all seeing stars. You know, we were so punch drunk. And Austin was a talented actor and self-taught musician and composer, who also was surrealistically funny as shit.
sure.
And you know, and the whole group, our goal was always to make one another laugh.
Yeah.
You know, if we could make one another laugh, we knew somebody out there in the vast darkness was also going to laugh at something that we were doing, and it proved to be true.
I mean, it's got to be so satisfying, though, to make, you know, what they would call now deep cuts, but make these very weird, not just obscure references, but of course jokes that fly by so fucking fast that you can't catch them until the 10th listen, and then to have people come up to you and probably quote the shit out of it.
Yeah. that was a conscious design on our parts, inspired by the Goon shows and their tremendous surrealism, which we all embraced, and the art of put on or send up, becoming characters like Bob and Ray, and taking people on a jolly old trip into some fantasy or another that sounded real. That was all part of it. But also we knew that as a unit, when we decided to do not just short skits or short routines, but stories, dramatic, comedic, dramedy, comedy stories, historical comedy, pastoral. That was the thing that glued us together, because nobody had done that, and we did it naturally. It just came naturally to us, and it was the most rewarding aspect of our career together.
Yeah.
You
mentioned, the Bob and Ray influence is clear, but I don't know why it never occurred to me how clear the Kovacs connection is, if only because your records are very much what I feel like he would have done if he'd have been making comedy albums, because the only records he has had are posthumous, I think. So, So just playing with the form, treating it as though it's something brand new. The difference, of course, being for him, the TV was relatively new when he was fucking around with it. Audio wasn't, yet you still found tricks that nobody else had done.
Yeah, that's right. And that was very rewarding. But Kovacs, whom I used to watch in New York live, he had an early morning television show on CBS called the Early Eyeball Show or something. Early morning eyeball show. I have actually a autographed postcard from him because I was a big fan. I love it. Watched every morning.
Yeah.
And what he would do was, for instance, I can sing this song now because Edie Gourmet sang it as part of a character he created called Der All-Night Recordspinner, a German character. And one of the records that he played was Wie viel ist das Wunsch in das Fenster? Ha, ha. Die ein mit dem wahrlichen Scheiß. Wie viel ist das Wunsch in das Fenster? Ha, ha. Ich möchte mehr haben Sie mehr kann. How much is the dog in the window in German?
So good.
Please. Please. And see, I used to tape his show. I had my dad was an entrepreneur, and he used to bring inventions into the house all the time. We had a wire recorder, which is why we made the joke, a barbed wire recorder.
Yeah.
The Old West,
I love
right?
that joke so much. Yeah.
and then I think before the wire recorder, we had a little disc maker. You had these vinyl, not plastic discs, vinyl discs. And and a recording needle. And I have a recording of me singing a Christmas hymn on that when I was
love it.
7 or 8. And then the wire recorder, and then the reel-to-reel recorder.
Sure.
And that's when I figured out that I bought a microphone, a Shure microphone, and a long cable. And I would run the cable from my room to the television, which at that time was in the living room. Everybody's living room, everybody's eggs. And I would just put it up to the speaker and record things, and I have Ernie Kovacs. I recorded all kinds of Ernie Kovacs stuff, and then would learn it and play with it and have fun with it. And with Bob and Ray, we then got a tape recorder with a radio built in. Okay, and so I would record Bob and Ray, who were on every morning, 5 days a week on WOR, I think. Doing a show from, I think, 6 until 9, something like that. And so I'd listen to the first hour, and at 7, I'd have to go to Alan Stevenson's school to rehearse with the orchestra, playing the violin, and then go to school. And my mom would record the rest of Bob and Ray. And then I would come back, listen to the rest of Bob and Ray while I did my homework. Okay, and then I learned there were things that happened on the Bob and Ray radio show that I just thought were pure gold, like when they'd break one another up, or Peter Roberts was the newsman, and they teased him incorrigibly. They used to go in at the end of his newscast and set his script on fire. They go under the table and set his script on fire. And he had a laugh that was the strangest laugh I've ever heard. It would go, oh, oh, and he would go on for 5 minutes. And they would just relish it. And he'd say, "You're so bad. You're so bad." They would also go in and they'd pull his pants off under the table. Well, so I saved those things by crudely, because I didn't know anything about tape editing, crudely cutting it with scissors and using Scotch tape and saving it on a reel. And later I think I fixed them with real splicing tape and a real razor. But I gave that reel to Larry Josephson, who was producing Bob and Ray on National Public Radio. And he included it in his four CD set, The Best of Bob and Ray, or something like that. So my mom and my saving of The Best of Bob and Ray from that radio series is available to people.
That's so good.
You know? So inspiration. Want to be funny, want to be silly, want to be absurd, want to be other characters, want to do it by sound. You know, I cut together a thing. I found out that I could buy sound effects records, which were 78 sound effects records, at a place called Valentine's, I think it was. And it was an address on like 8th Avenue in a big building that your daddy works in. And I would go in there and go up to the 8th floor, and there it was, Valentine Records, whatever it was, on a Nick Danger door. So on the other side it was, and you know, it's and he had, you know, shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves of sound effects records in plain brown wrappers and a catalog book that told you where everything was.
Wow.
And so I'd go in there with my allowance and I'd buy as many of them as I could. And then I'd take them back and I'd make recordings of my own with a sound effects background playing on my Victrola in the background. And I remember once I cut together, there was an ad for Knickerbocker beer, which was knock, knock for Knickerbocker. Knock, 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 knock. Knock, knock for Knickerbocker beer. So I recorded that. Knock, knock for Knickerbocker. Dot, 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 dot. I used a guy hitting another guy and smashing into furniture and stuff like that. And that was, I think, my first comic cut-up.
Oh my God.
Just for me and maybe my parents, you know. But that was it. The audio inspiration was very early in my life.
Yeah.
You know, and doing voices was early and inspired by geniuses of the time.
Delightful. That is delightful. I feel like I should point out, by way of promotion, that Taylor, is this record the first reference or only reference of dope humor of the 70s that then becomes a reality not so long ago?
Talk for a minute.
No, the ad "Dope Humor of the '70s" was part of the Let's Eat show. I don't think it was on Not Insane.
It is. It's mentioned in here. It's in the back. You can hear it loosely in the background. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Dope humor of the 70s.
Well,
Volumes
that was
1 and 2. I think
they definitely did that bit that year. Who can forget Cheech Chong's The Electrician?
Yeah, right.
That was 1972 all the way.
Such a beautiful record. Look at that thing.
You could get it as a download too. As you can see, this is an unopened copy. I'll open it and let the comedy out.
I had to tear mine open immediately the second I got it.
It's really funny. I was listening to some of it the other day, just randomly. It's in my computer. So every once in a while, one of the bits will just pop up, and I go, my God, that's funny. Who were these people? Why don't I remember doing this? And that's because we really did a lot of it. Again, that's the other side of the Firesign Theater. Remember, in those days, children records had two sides. All right, side A and side B, and which these vinyl records do in this marvelous vinyl edition, which I think you can still get. Stand-up records.
Oh, yeah, we should mention that. Dan would kill me if we didn't.
That's right.
And now
buy yours now.
I've lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, radio.
Yes.
Radio. So in past times, comics had to stand up and deliver their goods. Apparently, according to a friend of mine who wrote a book about stand-up comedy, stand-up came from the time when people would be sitting at tables in the Friars Club or something, and they'd have to stand up to deliver a joke. So it became, you're a stand-up comic.
Fair enough.
All right. So we did that to develop certain pieces at a club called the Ash Grove, which has had a great life as the Improv, the home of the Improv, where all the great comics, Jay Leno and Richard Pryor, and I mean, all of them worked at one point or another. Firesign Theater worked there, doing our Nick Danger for a taping of Live at the Improv. And before that, it was Ed Pearl's Ash Grove, primarily a folk club, with, comic acts and things. And the Credibility Gap worked there as well as we did. And that was one way to reach an audience, get a response, and develop material. We developed Giant Rat of Sumatra there. We developed Don't Crush That Dwarf, Hand Me the Pliers, which we called A Life in the Day. And we invented channel surfing, and we used that as a comic through line. And we did a lot of shows that never went anywhere, but pieces of them were incorporated, like the Owl and Octopus show. That was, and we're meat people here at Ralph's, and various other shows. Joey's House. We created a beloved American family, that was completely haunted and crazy, dysfunctional, and aspects of that, characters that we created, would end up on our records, but not all of them became topic for a record. But radio, we could go, if we were performing on stage, we had to have costumes and lights and sets. Austin was a genius at creating crazy sets for us. And I, if I do say so myself, was very ingenious in finding props and costume pieces and masks and things that could create instant changes, so you could go from one place to another, just like our records did, with a minimal of turn around, put on a mask, and then you're another character. Throw on a vest, you're another character. And anyway, radio, we didn't have to do any of that. It was all in your head. It was movies in your mind. And so radio became not only the origin of the Firesign Theater on Peter Bergman's Radio Free Oz late night counterculture call-in talk show, which all of he invented on KPFK. But it became a place for us to constantly create new material and try it out, really, for the four of us. But we attracted an audience. And the audience, usually, as I remember them, we're all lying on the floor. We'd be sitting around a round table with microphones, and there'd be a bunch of fans, Edgar Bullington and God knows who else, lying on the floor under the table, laughing at what we were doing. And I loved that, not just because it gave us a hint as to what was working, but when I was, again, watching early television as a kid, Bob and Ray had a 15-minute show on NBC for a while.
Okay.
Okay. And of course, I would watch it after I got back from school. And no audience, just Bob and Ray doing like Mary Backstage Noble Wife and visualizing some of the radio characters that we'd gotten to know and love with funny mustaches or a silly hat, again, minimalistic and somewhat surrealistic hints at what the characters looked like. But the material was the funny part. And I remember no audience except for the cameramen. And they would laugh because they couldn't help themselves. And I remember watching one of the shots of Bob and Ray wiggle because the cameraman was laughing so hard. It was live. he couldn't control his camera. And I said, that's what I want to do.
Right.
And that's funny. That's truly funny. One of the reasons that we enjoy watching Stephen Colbert right now during the pandemic is because the only laughter you hear is from his cameraman and his producers and his wife. I love it.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but this really is a golden age for TV, talk show comedy.
Yeah,
watching
it's retro.
one of the Colbert bits when he's just trying to make like 6 people in the studio laugh. His audience, it's the best.
It is the best.
I mean, there's a moment in one of the Let's Eat shows that I don't think would have been as nearly as funny if there was nobody in the studio, but it just kills because there are people in the studio. Everybody is just drifting into this sort of whatever, and Bergman says, I'm going to the dance with my girl. My name is Bradley. Austin comes in and says, my name is Bradley. Your name is Bradley? That's right. I'm going to the tuxedo dance on Sunday with a girl named Bradley. That's right, and I expect to be taken in a taxi. The fact that there are 6 people in that room that are just dying on the floor at how good this is, that turns what was a really funny bit into just an amazing.
And the other thing I have to acknowledge the contribution of our engineer, the real Earl Jive, who's still a friend of mine. He's Canadian. He's up in Toronto right now. But he used to play with us. He was the perfect foil for us because he would drop in sound effects or inappropriate music, without any prompting from us. And then we would have to improvise to that.
Oh my God.
And make
chaos.
Make it part of the story. It was chaos embraced. It was loving chaos.
Yeah.
And out of that, many times, because we were totally uninhibited, you couldn't have footing under those circumstances. If the ship tilted in a certain way, you had to maintain your footing on that by tilting with it. So it was a wonderful place to discover things. And what you hear on the record, Dope Humor of the 70s, is you hear the work being done.
Yeah.
You hear the selflessness of it. You hear the surprise of it. You hear sometimes the hit and the miss. And that's all part of the fun, because it makes it abundantly clear that you're hearing something absolutely real of the moment, which is not something that when you think about our entertainment today and how packaged it is, even the reality shows aren't real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was an era where we were free to do that kind of stuff. That's the one other thing about Firesign Theater and even the Not Insane album. We had a contract with Columbia Records. Now that's no little deal. That's not chopped liver. And and we had a 4-record deal. We did 3 records, and the first record, Waiting for the Electrician or Someone Like Him, I guess we did more than 4 records with them. Again, I don't remember the chronology of this, but the first record was a moderate success because it was totally new. The first side, which was made up of short sketches about topical events like the hippie generation or the psychedelics,
Mhm.
or the story of the American Indian, or what have you, and with a live orchestra that later became the Wrecking Crew, that was brought into the studio by Jimmy Guercio. Glenn Campbell is on the guitar on our first album,
Wow.
Waiting for the Electrician, something like it. And I mean, it was like all fresh, new. Let's do it! My God, we can do it, and because we can. And then the second side was a long form story, Waiting for the Electrician or Someone Like It. We put out the album. Is anybody going to salute? We're running it up the flagpole. Anybody going to salute? And there's a meeting of the suits at Columbia, and one of them holds up the album and says, "What's this? Who are these people, and what are they trying to do? What is this?" So, let's drop them. And a guy named John McClure said, "You don't understand. This is the new comedy. This is where comedy is going. These 4 guys are geniuses, and they've created a new long-form comedy album." He said, "Look, if you don't believe in them, I am the head of the spoken arts division of Columbia Records. I will sign them to a spoken arts contract." And in a way he did, because they kept us on.
Mm-hmm.
And what he did was, in exchange for a reduced royalty, he gave us unlimited studio time.
Insane.
We could go into the studio whenever it was open and record stuff. And that's why we were able to do what we did, because we could write something, and unfinished, we could take it into the studio and try it out, improvise on it, change it, find out where the voices were, who our characters were, and then, informed by that, go back and write some more and take that in, and so we could finish the album in a way that had never been possible before. The whole history of music on recorded music was doing one number after another number.
Yeah.
Okay. Complete. You record the whole number. All right. And that take was pretty good. Let's do it again, boys. And then later, when editing became more sophisticated, you could say, let's overdub the horns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. People were beginning to think, hey, wait a minute. We can play with this. We can manipulate this. Or, hey, can we cut the thing out from the end and redo the end? Yeah, we can do. Can we do that? Well, let's try it. And so Firesign came into the recording world at a time when people were starting to play with all those, the wall of sound and editing and overdubbing and all that, and that was what we applied to a comedy record.
Mm-hmm.
See, and it was so liberating.
I would imagine.
Yeah,
I guess that's what the big difference is with Not Insane, is that after these your first four albums that were intensely studio productive, and after Dear Friends, which was a collection of radio stuff, there was only about 5 or 10 minutes of stuff on Not Insane that was recorded in the studio.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's right. Because it was the Firesign was splintered at the time. We were not working on a daily basis coherently together, which was another thing that gave us our peculiar strength. We liked working together. We liked sitting around a table getting slightly high and drinking brandy and making miniature castles. We liked that, you know. It was quite different from what a band would have to do, where they'd have to, you know, go into a studio or somebody's garage and sweat, you know, play until I got blisters on my fingers. You know, no, we didn't have to do all that. We get stoned and make one another laugh, and write that down. That's funny. And you, earlier, I think Taylor touched upon the fact that we also incorporated a lot of found material into our work. I think a lot of that was inspired by Dave Osman, who put out poetry books that were made of collages, cut-ups, snip-ups of found material or excerpts of books, like the Dadas. The Dadas did.
That's great.
The Dadas and the Mamas, one of my favorite. The Mamas and the Dadas, one of my favorite groups. You know, Cass Elliot.
Great album cover. Too bad they had to take the toilet off the cover.
That's right. Cass Elliot and Spike Milligan. Oh my God. And Harry Seacombe. Brilliant. But anyway, I did that a lot. Overheard conversations, write them down. I heard it. Oh my God. What did he just say? Write it down. And then I'd bring it in and I'd read it to the boys. Or I'd find something on the street. That's where this whole thing about like a bridge. There's this whole strange political speech, which is totally taken from a mad person's scribblings on a piece of paper found on a Hollywood street.
Wow.
You know, and we could just roll it in. Roll it in. And where does it take us? You know, again, it was like the social psyche. Okay, and inspiration was on every corner.
Yeah.
Every corner. As an actor, I was always inspired by observing things. I could draw a character from a simple observation of how somebody was walking, or how they dressed, or how something that they said, and what kind of a voice they said it in, and I could, you know, use that when I created a character, because I had all this sense memory in a way to draw upon. And all of the Firesign Theater, every single one of us had that knack, okay, or that drive to do that. We all found the real world amusing, crazy, and we embraced that. You know, that's why the first question we ever asked was, "What is reality?" What is reality? And when you think back on Waiting for the Electrician, again, one of the things about Firesign Theater is its timelessness, but the other thing was its prognostication. We were constantly projecting, like a science fiction writer would, what society would be like if we had these tools, if suddenly we had phones in our shoes. You know, every time we stepped, we make a call, which is from the case of the missing shoe, big danger. And in Electrician, we created this quiz show called Beat the Reaper. First of all, Electrician is all about the fall of the Soviet Empire. That's what it was all about. I had experienced it firsthand when I went to the Soviet Union with the Russian chorus, and I shared my observations with the boys that I saw that it was all a sham, and that all the money was going into military, and because they were so traumatized by the Second World War, they didn't want that to happen again. My God, we're ready, and in order to do that, because the government controlled all the means of production, they had to cut back in certain other areas, like people's lives. Yeah. So I dated this girl named Alla, fell in love with this girl named Alla. And at one point, she in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg again, and she finally invited me to pick her up at her house, where she'd fallen over. She was no fun. And I went to her apartment building, which was one of these Stalin-era, big, huge, flat, dull-looking buildings. And when I went inside, I saw that the staircase was still not repaired from the bombing of the Second World War.
Wow.
And there was, burn marks on the wall and things. I went, wow. The front of the building looked fine. Once you step beyond the front, you saw the reality of how folks had to live. And that's what I told the boys. And so the album is about revolution. We've got to change this. The people have to take over. And of course, it had to be entertaining, the ice show and all that kind of stuff. But we created this show called Beat the Reaper, which now, it came true 2 years ago. Beat the Reaper, for those who might not know it, is a game show in which the contestant is injected with a mystery disease and has 30 seconds to determine, to diagnose what it is, so that our topless nurse Judy can come in and administer an antidote. And Phil Austin, who is playing this character, P, I think his name was, he goes farther than any contestant has ever gone before. And so he's given the really big disease. And he can't guess what it is. He feels terrible. I think I want to die. Oh, I'm sorry. You didn't beat the Reaper. Dr. What was his name? Dr. Filth of the Armenian Medical Association. Will you tell our contestant what he has contracted? This patient has the plague. And there was this and then the audience suddenly realized, what with the plague? He's got the plague. And a panic ensued, right? And Phil runs out of the studio on the street where now the plague has affected everything. People are dying everywhere. And it's become like part of the entertainment, the society, being covered by the news, And he gets into a cab to try to get out of the country, throws his clothes out of the cab because they're all running after him saying, touch me, I want to get it, which I realize now is a metaphor of celebrity. See, it's a metaphor of celebrity. It doesn't matter how bad you are. Yeah. If you're more famous than I am, I want that. I want to touch you, and of course he escapes to the other side of the record in a way. So anyway, that was the legacy that we left behind by being fearlessly predictive and very politically incorrect almost all the time. All the time. There's one cut that we can't play from How Can You Be in Two Places at Once When You're Not Anywhere at All, which is called The American Pageant. Because the American Pageant song uses every bad word about a minority.
Oh, yes, right, yeah.
In a lighthearted, comic, happy sense.
Sure.
Because what it's saying, of course, is sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And in the song, we really tried to take the energy out of them. We tried, but America has certainly not come to grips with it yet. Not even yet.
Right.
Not even yet. I thought in my lifetime that we'd be multiracial society. Nope, not yet. I don't think it'll happen during my lifetime, but I think it's at least beginning to manifest.
One hopes so. Taylor, I would like, how we normally at the end of every episode we just say, hey, give me 2 reasons to why to listen to this record. Give people instead maybe a couple sentences why this record is important to listen to in the Pantheon, so they understand where this stands and what it represents.
You should absolutely get a copy of this record because it's going to have a lot of really funny bits on it that you will enjoy, including one long funny bit, which is the Waiting for the Count of Monte Cristo, which is from a live performance from 1970, which they just recycled into the record. It had never been published to that point, and it's very funny. They did it live, I think, at Columbia in New York City, and it's a great performance. But the whole album has got bits and pieces on it that will just kill you. They're very funny.
Yeah.
And you need to listen to it because you are all Firesign completists, and you need to listen to it. That's all.
You must.
Well, now, so instead of talking about either everything you know is wrong or not insane, we're basically talking about our newest album.
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
That's what we've ended up talking about, yes.
Yeah, which is good because, again, it incorporates a lot of the writing that, you can also get in the which one is this one? Marching to Shibboleth, the big book of plays by the Firesign Theater. Bear Manor Media has all the Firesign stuff. And I just opened into Hemlock Stones and the giant rat of Sumatra. Okay.
Yes, everybody needs to go to Fire Sale and buy Shibboleth, and everybody needs to go to Stand Up Records and buy Dope You Were in the 70s. They're in print. Buy them.
I agree.
Unlike not insane.
You can follow Phil at Firesign Phil on Twitter. I don't know how often you tweet. I never tweet, so I never know what to tell people, but you're there.
Well, listen, if people want to get in touch with me,
yes,
I'm at phil.proctor@mac.com.
Oh, there you go.
I keep the light on in the window for you. And planetproctor.com. Planetproctor.com. And you can hear me right now on a podcast available on Facebook and everywhere good podcasts are sold, called Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show. And we interview people like John Goodman and Dave Osman, Harry Shearer, Tom Hartman, Weird Al Yankovic, Penn Jillette. We've really been having a lot of fun talking to people who, are not only Firesign fans, but are friends.
Yeah.
Friends of ours. And getting some extraordinary insight into their, like I tried to give today, into how they got to the point of their success. And how Firesign may have also influenced them just by telling them you could be crazy. It's okay. There are other people who think like you do. There are other people who are not insane. So go for it. It's liberating.
Taylor's not going to promote it himself, so I'm just going to tell you guys to go to fujipuzzlebox.blogspot.com. Is that the friggin' address? No,
yes, yeah. You should listen to my show on WFMU. It's on the Sheena's Jungle Room streaming channel of WFMU, and it is named after my blog, Fuji Puzzle Box, and it's on every Saturday morning.
I gave the wrong address. It's taylorjessen.blogspot.com. I'm sorry. My brain is misassumed. I'm a moron. I want to thank you again, both of you, for doing the show.
You are a moron, but you're a professional moron.
Thank you. So at least you appreciate that. At least somebody gives a shit.
And listen, before you sign off, Jason, your lifestyle is changing now, isn't it?
It is. It is.
This is an extraordinary show that you've been doing. And I know every time that I have any time to watch or listen to it, I learn some extraordinary backstory.
Thank you.
About the development of comedy and the role of vinyl comedy in it, and the development of people's comic sensibilities, not just always from the perspective of the comedian himself, but people who worked with them or produced them or slept with them, and I think it's very unique. And are you going to continue some kind of a broadcast life with in the future?
I mean, my plan with this is I'd like to continue to, since it won't be a weekly affair anymore, I'd like to continue the history of Firesign, and I'd like to continue the history of Monty Python that I've been doing with Andre Jackman, who produced all the Python albums.
Right.
Because it's a nice parallel to do this with you guys and that with him. And then I have too many other podcasts to deal with anyway, so yeah, I won't shut the fuck up. People, including Dan and Jay's Comedy Hour, which people should check out only because Phil is on one of our Christmas albums. He's also on the album that it has taken me 3 years to finish. It's still not done. It's Pandemic. I blame Pandemic. You're great on it. You're in it. Taylor, shit, I need to get you to record for it too.
That's right.
See, these are the things that hold me up.
Before you leave, right?
Right. But either way, you guys can check out the Dan and Jay's Comedy Hour podcast. That's, Yeah, I don't know. There we are. Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm so
No, you're
popular.
you're fine.
They're calling me again because apparently my car warranty has run out.
Oh shit! You
Oh,
better call
no.
them back.
That's
Oh yeah.
awful.
When I get off the phone off this show, I'm going to call them back immediately
Yeah.
and give them my social security number.
Thank you. That's what I was going to tell you. First thing to
Fantastic.
say.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for listening. And as always, have a good thing. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of StolenDress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Warden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klom. Our theme song was composed and performed by Richard Levinson. You can email us at podcast@comedyonvinyl.com. You can also send snail mail to StolenDress Entertainment, P.O. Box 805, Burbank, California, 91503. Subscribe to Comedy on Vinyl on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you can find podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating and write us a review. It helps. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Comedy on Vinyl, or find everything in one place at comedyonvinyl.com. A major portion of Comedy on Vinyl has been underwritten by Stand Up Records. Please visit standuprecords.com for all your comedy needs and tune in to the new Stand Up Records channel available on the Roku, where you can also find select episodes of this podcast. Visit StolenDress.com to listen to our other podcasts, watch videos, and imbibe freely of our multimedia content going back 15 plus years. StolenDress Entertainment.
Hey, it's my turn. Ah!